Hello, my name is Dominic Underhallhouse and welcome to another episode of Moonbreaker. So in one of our previous videos we looked at my aggro Astra list, which is still the most successful list I've had so far. I have had a loss with it, although I will take all of the credit for that. I misplayed it terribly and my opponent did play really well, so I'm absolutely fine with having that loss. It's still my best record so far, but it sparked a lot of discussion in the Discord and when people were talking about the difference between aggressive lists and defensive lists. So what we're going to look at today is a mid-range list. So this was Caster Brown's list from the Discord, and what it is a Extilior list. So I'm not particularly familiar with Extilior to the same extent as I am the other captains. I feel much more comfortable with a range captain, I feel comfortable with Ramp, I feel comfortable with Zax. So between that, Zax and Astra just come a bit more naturally to me. So what we've got in this list is a bit of a different one. So the aim is to play defensive early on with a couple of high damage units so we can trade with units if we need to, and then build ourselves into a situation later on where we've just got, only one or two damage dealers really, and just a very defensive setup to be able to deal with it. So the early units we're going to be playing are Beatris Enforcer, Taria Arsenal, and Chuck and Co. So, not Chuck and Co, sorry, Rickety Backfire. So we've got these three 2-drops here. And the point of these is we're going to play Beatris if we're defensive, Taria if we're aggressive, and Rickety potentially if we need to trade. So these fill all of your sort of these standard early game options. It's only one of each, so we've got to be quite sparing with it, but that's how they're used from there. Because we're not running any 1-drops, that means we get to skip straight to a 4-drop. Now versus an aggro list, Shrapnel is absolutely brilliant. It's one of the best 4-drops going against any aggro list whatsoever. Every time I see Shrapnel, I'm somewhat terrified. So that's what we're going to be going with as our standard 4-drop. We've also got Chuck and Co, which puts us to having 3 armoured units already in our list. So that's a really strong start against aggro lists. And then lastly, for our 4-drops, we've got Crosshair. So Crosshair is just a large amount of damage. So we can put out quite a big impact, quite a big sort of impactful hit. It's going to start taking out units in 2 shots usually. If they haven't moved, 5 damage is quite a large amount, and we can basically use Crosshair as one of our finishers. So the next one we're going to look at is Aegis Defense Dome, which is really, really useful. It means that basically Shrapnel, Chuck and Co and Beatris will take no damage other than 3 damage being reduced to 1 if they're within the dome. To me, that's absolutely bonkers. That's such a strong defensive ability, and so if we've got that and our opponent doesn't, chances are we're going to win that grind eventually. The last thing we've got is Quetzalli. So I'm not sure about Quetzalli here. I'm not really sure why it's in the list. I'm not sure how I'm going to use it, but I'm going to try and make use of it. I think it's more just going to be to keep repositioning, just to keep moving away from aggro and just sort of getting those defensive units where they need to be. But honestly, I'm not really sure. I would probably be considering something more like, in a list like this, even maybe a Nectarvine. A Nectarvine could do well because you've got some slower units. Again, not my default choice, but it would be reasonable. I wouldn't mind like a Florio Lancer to try and take something out from distance. So it's a little bit unusual, but let's see what we've got. I'm not slamming it. I don't know the answer. I have not played this list at all. I'm jumping into this completely fresh here. Maybe Quetzalli ends up being MVP and we can just move our whole fortress every single turn, Chuck and Go someone away, and just keep that damage coming. So, we're going to jump into a game. Hopefully we find an opponent that's going to be running something a bit more aggressive, so we can see how that functions into an aggressive list. You may know already that Beatris is probably still my favourite unit. There's a lot of people again who say that she just sort of runs circles around by things like Maximus, and the thing is, that's absolutely true, but for the 2 turns or so that Maximus has to reposition, if you place her next to terrain, treat her like an extra bit of wall and you're hiding behind her, it can quite often take a turn or 2 for Maximus to get all the way around to another bit of, another piece of terrain. And to be honest, I tend to find that that's enough of an advantage from her as a 2-drop. She's very hard to kill, she's very much a sort of a walking wall, and by the time they've repositioned, that early advantage of Maximus starts to wear off quite quickly. So, I'm still a big fan of Beatris, looking forward to chaining her into Shrapnel, and basically having 2 units out on the battlefield that are almost untouchable by a lot of the aggro lists, and Shrapnel should be able to clear things up quite quickly in conjunction with any other damage whatsoever, because Shrapnel being AoE is it's the only AoE unit in our list at the moment apart from Rickety Backfire, but if we play the two of those at the same time, we could potentially wipe out an entire army in one go. You know, there's a lot of AoE damage in a very confined area, but again, with the right assists as well, that could be really, really useful. Speaking of assists, I'm not sure what would be good with this. I'm feeling like Disruptor and Vortex are the easy picks. They are always good in any list that you play. They just give you a few extra options and that sort of thing. I think Corrosive is a maybe, and I think Stun and Nano Shield could be very good, because Nano Shield with Rickety Backfire is just a surefire way to get multiple triggers off, and then playing the stun slows the opponents down enough when they've got a bit of damage coming their way. So we've got those options, we've got that variety. We're probably going to have the same turn 2, turn 4 most games, but if it looks like our opponent is playing a slower start, we don't need to play our 2-drop. So that means that we can just skip that straight into Shrapnel and then save up for the next turn, and that would mean that we are probably at that point able to play... Let me just check. I think we'd be probably playing either one of our 5 or 6 drops at that point, because we'd still have 2 Cinder left over, and we could play, you know, one of our bigger units, and start just sort of building up that defensive wall at that point there. So all in all, I'm quite keen to try this out. There are a few different versions posted in the Discord. Some of the other ones really didn't sort of jump out at me. This one did, because it did have that sort of couple of defensive early units. So we had like the Taria Arsenal and the Rickety, just to make sure we can trade if we really need to. Because there's a lot of occasions where if they're aggressive and they do have really good positioning, they do avoid your Beatris, you need other ways to be able to deal with things coming at you, and the best way to do that is by killing them. So that's why this is the list that I picked. It's something I'm genuinely wanting to try, and hopefully we can have some success. So I'm going to just pause the video for a moment here while we just get through into the queue. In fact, there we go. Saves us a bit of time. It's come through just as we were about to pause it. Okay, so we're on a big open map, and we're against another Extilior. That's an interesting matchup, so I wonder what level our opponent is. Okay, looking at this, Stasis Field Cinder Infusion seems great. Disruptor, Orbital, anything with Orbital just feels a little lackluster at the moment. Ion Storm and Stimburst seems good as well. I think I want to go Stasis and Cinder Infusion, because this way we can play, so Beatris turn 1 if they play something like Maximus out. So for instance here, if they move up and play Maximus, we're just going to play Beatris in this bit of wall here, probably at this sort of angle, and then we're just going to hide behind it. We don't need to do anything about that whatsoever. So let's have a look at their skin there. Quite like the colour scheme. I think if it were me, I'd probably go for a little bit lighter on the helmet, because the helmet is just being black is... Actually, I think really the green and white on the legs looks a really nice combination, so maybe something along that.
A perfect day for righteous battle.
So this here is a time where Maximus is actually going to be very hard for us to deal with, because we're in a position where there's no safe spot. They've moved up as far as they can, and Maximus can come at us from any angle whatsoever. So what we are just going to do is make it so that the angle is as awkward as possible. So up here is where we really want to be. I think this is one of the better angles for Maximus, especially with them being on the play. But it does mean that if they pick one side, so that, yeah, they're picking over here, that next turn when we play Beatris, especially if they move back behind this, we're going to have a much easier time defending it. Perfect. So I want to see how far they can get around this side is the issue. So they can actually get down there very easily. So depending on what they play here, let's see. So the thing is, we're one turn off of Cinder Infusion as well, which makes this difficult.
They cower.
So here it turns out Stimburst would have actually been very good. But with them going Antios, I think what we need to actually do is just straight on move backwards this way. So we're going to play Extilior back here, We're going to play Beatris out. We're going to block this line of sight as much as possible to give Maximus that minimal chance of damaging anything. And to be completely honest, we're not going to use Shield of Hope because we're going to be saving that for Shrapnel. But I think this could be a difficult start. And also, one of the things I want to point out as well, Jason Lee Zucker, who's our opponent, is roughly the same level as us as well. So that's always nice to see. This is Disruptive. Ooh, corrosive. So this means they do actually damage Beatris, which is inconvenient but fine. It just means that they are going to deal 2 damage to Beatris with Maximus. If I were them, I'd probably just rush everything at Maximus. But if they go for, what, 5 damage on us with Antios, that's kind of fine.
Path I must follow. Retaliation is
Yeah,
unwise.
I mean, sure. It's not good for us by any means. You know, it's still a very large amount of damage to be taking this early. This is not... Yeah, this is the shot. They nearly didn't make it. If we'd have put our Shield of Hope there, they'd have been in a lot of trouble. Okay, so what do we do here? So with Extilior coming up this way, next turn he can move it slightly in range of things here. So I think what we're going to be doing... Oh, are we actually blocked in the tiniest little bit here? Oh, they've got Quetzalli. Okay, so we can't actually run away here. There's not really any route for us to do so. So we need to find another way of making this work. This is very awkward, to be honest.
Bravery requires teensy breaks.
We can trap them in as well. So let's just go for the hit first. Got the hit. Given that Extilior can't get in range and they're trapped as well, I actually think this is a perfect time for Shrapnel to come in. Maybe about here, so we're just out of range of Extilior there. We should, if we move back slightly, because Antios can move out at the moment. So if we come back to about here, they might not actually be able to move out at all.
Let's shorten the list.
We can Cinder Infusion, probably on Shrapnel, just how we have the most health. And the question is, do we need Beatris to try and deal damage over here? I don't think we do. I think we want to save Beatris and just keep this defensive position. Again, they can deal another 4 damage to us. We're probably going to need to start struggling from this point. So Maximus is obviously going to be going for Extilior here. This is the right choice because they get that refresh movement. Yeah, we are going to struggle with that with Quetzalli specifically because Quetzalli is such a powerful movement tool. So I'm not sure how we're going to cope here. I think we might even have to stun
those wolves.
Maximus or Extilior. Yeah, because now Extilior can get into range as well. In fact, Extilior can get onto our Extilior. So we're going to have to stun their Extilior and just go for a large chunk of damage here. We're in a lot of trouble. So this is quite likely just me playing the list and sort of my style of doing so. But they are going to take that down. Yeah. So we actually have to kill Antios Gauntlet. We have to stun, stun Extilior, and on top of that, we have to find a way to not take any damage to Maximus. So I think we're a little bit stuck here. What do we have left to come down? I mean, we've got Chuck and Co, so we can make it almost impossible for them to get an angle here. So what do we do?
Feeling fine. They're always surprised.
We can look for some damage going this way. We can so we know we have to stun Extilior. This is also our only attack with Beatris, so might as well take this. Shrapnel can come over here. I just don't know how we actually survive this.
Protection protocol active.
I mean, we're almost going to have to just... In fact, if we come here, go for this.
Spread it on.
Yeah, I don't see a world in which we can survive this. I don't think there is any route whatsoever, but if there was one, it probably involves hiding from every possible angle we can get.
Our time is limited.
See, this doesn't even stop them, so I think our best bet is actually to place Taria Arsenal there
Okay, go, go,
and
go.
Rickety Backfire here. I just hope they can't fit in this gap in the corner. So this is almost guaranteed to be a failure on this front. Well, so let's see what we can do here. Yeah, I mean, even just, yeah, getting Maximus over here, we need him to miss one shot still. So we haven't left an angle through here, which is what we intended. These needed to be blocking everything. So this could actually be the mistake. If they go for the shot here through this without moving again, they just need to move here and they've probably got us. That's really all they need to do, because... Okay, they got us anyway. That's fine. So that was pretty much about as bad as it could go for us. We had an opponent with a very aggressive start, they had corrosive, and we didn't have the ability to get the angles cut off from them there. So that one didn't go quite as hoped, but I feel like there is some potential there. I think maybe it was my fault in playing Beatris. I should have maybe gone for either Taria or Rickety just to try and keep that trading value going early, because Beatris didn't do any damage, and in that situation the positioning wasn't as good. That map maybe isn't just a map for Beatris. The other ones have got a few more like bigger angles, you can sort of cut bits off, make little L shapes. Ooh, okay, we've got the Golden Zax. Now there's a chance that this is someone I've seen before, because I've seen a few Golden Zaxes, but we'll have a look in just a moment. Okay, so this, I think, Escape Hatch and Nano Shield looks great here, because this means we can get our Defense Dome down really early. Rockin' Saga level 30. Okay, so I don't know if this is someone I've played before. They've definitely got the metallic paints and making sure they get good use out of them as well. I like that they've got Zax's hair in different colours for the rest of it.
Where am I?
Okay,
Just
so
kidding.
this here is a very obvious Maximus start.
Your
Nothing to really
commands.
say about it. Looking at the angles he can get to, I actually think if we just move in here,
Complying.
we should be fairly safe. We shouldn't be able to get shot easily from any angle. And then depending on which direction they choose, we can play Beatris next turn. I don't think we are a Beatris play this turn though, depending on what they play.
I'll hook you up.
Okay, so with them playing Taria, I actually do think we play Beatris. So this can move over here, so I think we need to basically try and create a cutoff here. So what we're going to do is move up to here, and we're going to play Beatris just in this gap here, and we want to make it as hard of an angle as possible. So they can get up here, but I don't know if that will be able to hit Extilior. It might be able to. So we're just going to place it about, I think about here, makes it as hard as possible for them to get a good angle. Maybe just here against the terrain.
With you till the end.
Again, I'm not convinced this is correct, but it's an interesting option. Next turn we're going to have our Escape Hatch and Shrapnel, and then at that point none of this actually does anything. Yeah, okay, if they're using 2 Cinder on that, we're absolutely okay with that. Corrosive, yep. Corrosive's still the best ability in the game at the moment. If they move all the way up here, we will take that. Yeah, we'll take 3 and probably taking another 4 off Maximus. Yeah, so we're taking 6. So on this turn alone, Corrosive's done 4 damage to our captain, and this is in a tanky build. It's absolutely crazy because they managed to pull Beatris out of the way, get all their attacks in. So we are really going to have to just start setting up our big defensive plays as soon as possible. But luckily, so the thing is, for the next couple of turns, they can't really get anything in. Because we've got our defense dome, so we just need to protect the dome. And they're only going to be able to do 1 damage at all. I actually think here it might even be Crosshair. So is this Taria Arsenal? Yeah, it is. So they can take 3 off of us. Shrapnel is just really good though. But we kind of want to protect the dome as well. I think we're playing Shrapnel just in here to try and just sort of lock this section off. Again, we need to provide some damage back. So this is obviously fine. They're going to deal 1 damage to Extilior at least. Yep. And then I imagine Maximus is going to go over here and try and shoot the dome. That's what I'd do if I was them. And a similar sort of thing with Zax. I think I'd be trying to find an angle on the defense dome. And then we're going to send Shrapnel out to try and find an angle there. So we have got a stun next turn. So, okay, yep, they do hit the 1. Over here's an interesting choice. I think they're probably just trying to split up from Shrapnel. But with Extilior being able to get very close to it in range there, and us still having other options to play, I think we might be looking at...
Ready for swift action.
I'm sure. We might be looking at going for Taria. Just moving up this way, spending 2, playing Rickety Backfire maybe over here. Snaring as well. Okay. Yeah, so we can't quite get to base contact. 50% chance to hit here. The other option is coming over here and trying to get multiple hits in that worry. I think it's Taria, and I think this is... So I think we move up here first. No, I think we just shoot. Hopefully 50-50. We've got it. So here we're going to spin. There we go. Move the defense dome back up here.
Every day's full
Beatris
body.
this way.
They're always surprised.
And Shrapnel maybe even just up here, so that Beatris doesn't have quite as many options. In fact, we went a little bit further because of Zax's abilities there as well. We've got shield I hope we could put on ourselves, but I think what we're going to do is play Rickety Backfire over here.
Warning.
And we're actually going to stun, I think, Snarling. Oh, this is shield. I think we shield Rickety. We need Rickety to live. So we've got our defensive set up. We are losing health rapidly. They're 1 turn away from corrosive. But this will deal 1 to us, 1 to them. Medical replay. Okay, I think that's maybe a bit wasteful, but I guess if they're just repositioning, then that's fine. We could... Yeah, get another 1. So we're going to basically be running back and placing Shield of Hope on ourselves almost every turn from now on. I think next turn is probably Crosshair as just a big damage unit. So the awkward thing here is if they actually hit, yeah, they still immobilize us. That's really awkward. It does still mean we can hit them if something's still in range, in line of sight. This is not good for them because they can't get any damage done through this whatsoever, especially not shooting an armoured unit. So we're very likely to be able to get 3 onto Maximus there. Okay, Beatris is back. She can't keep up with us, so if we keep putting Shield of Hope on ourselves, Extilior is going to be fairly safe here.
Let's see if we still got it.
Okay, so with 5 to play, yeah, I think it is probably just Crosshair that we need to get out.
Instructions.
So we're going to move back here.
Calculating.
Shield of Hope ourselves.
Defense subroutine D1.
This is absolutely a Shrapnel turn, so Shrapnel's going to come up here. Just try and get some damage out here.
That's my boy.
It wasn't the most useful, but it did something. We'll send this out here. Again, this shouldn't do much damage to ourselves. Should we 1?
Not bad.
There we go. So we're taking less there.
The wings were a bad choice.
Yeah, nothing else here needs to come out, so I think we are just playing Crosshair and going for the... Do you know what? I actually feel like Crosshair needs to come nearer the front, which I don't like, but I don't see a better option. Yeah, this is about where I feel like Crosshair wants to go. We don't like Crosshair being here, to clarify, but it means that, we could still take 1 less damage from things. It means that they're going to come forward for Extilior and we can potentially shoot things off of the board.
like my
Maximus is
battle
probably
master.
doing nothing most of the rest of the game unless they can get line of sight onto the dome, which is probably what they're going to try and do. Yeah, they're going to miss. I mean, I don't think this does anything. I think this is just a waste of 2 Cinder on their part. Unless there's a specific angle they're trying to get. I don't think that really does much. Are they just placing a mine? Again, a mine doesn't do anything here. We're going to try and go in here for some AoE. This is almost no chance to hit. So we've got a defensive situation. It is set up fairly well. Extilior's got 1 Shield of Hope and can start stacking more up. I don't think this hits anything with the chain. No, it doesn't. And we can start trying to get these additional AoE shots in here. And I think Maximus just needs to be probably just taken out by Crosshair. So I think we probably actually even make Crosshair vulnerable and just send her right into the breach. Okay, Esley. So Esley is going to die. I think we just do this. Yeah, we've got that crit. Get the attack.
Remember this lovely
We will
face.
send Rickety to here, and we're just going to send this shot in.
This was the
Explode a little bit, we do some damage to ourselves, but we knew that was coming. We weren't surprised by that at all. This should get us a shot on all 3 of them. With good chances as well. Excellent.
The wings were a bad choice.
Beatris is going to come over here to just start looking at maybe flanking.
Awaiting directive.
Now, we can move a little but not far enough. We can just... I think it's... Okay, we can escape hatch, but I actually think we'd rather just place Chuck and Go down than escape hatch, and then just shield... Let's shield ourselves.
Today's recruits, so lazy.
Yeah, this seems right. So, Snarling's probably going to want to go on Beatris. This is corrosive, so this is going to be a turn. Yeah, maybe we should have paid more attention to this and moved off a little, but... Yeah, so this dome going down is actually going to be a big deal if it does. So we really want that to live. They almost have to kill Rickety here, it's just wasteful not to. So I think we're in trouble, but we're not out of it. So this is going to be a bit of damage. Yep. Extilior's still got shield of... oh no, sorry, he's used his shield up. Okay, so what they're playing down here... This seems to actually be working quite well. So in the first game it wasn't as much of a success, they were just a little bit too quick for us, but in this game the escape hatch was really valuable, getting the defense dome down early. Maybe that's something we should have worked towards more actively last time. Ooh, 2 damage. Okay, we need to just... Yeah, so Extilior is going to be in a lot of trouble here. We are going to be absolutely down to 3. Defending him for the rest of the game, essentially. This, however, is not something I expected to see, is them leaving Rickety alive. So Rickety's just going to come in here and try and see if we can take out our good old friend Beatris here, because if we can do 2 damage to this, 2 damage to the next one, we've taken out a lot, so hopefully we get the explosion. Do. So we actually wanted this to hit Chuck and Co, because the reason for that is we're going to toss Deadeye, which is going to do a lot of damage. We're then going to move in and punch Beatris, which is, again, that's part of the goal.
Eager to please.
Now the question is, Extilior's obviously going to Shield of Hope himself, and I think even just attack this. Got the crit even better, so... wait, Defense Dome? Oh, it's immobile from Snarling. So, Shrapnel needs to attack, and we need to try and deal damage to a few different things. So I think here we actually just go onto this front. Crosshair has got the 99% kill here. And Beatris can just come and defend slightly. Extilior can run to the back. And we're going to deploy Quetzalli because we can.
Say thanks for second chances.
So, next turn we're going to be giving Extilior immune, and we're going to be trying to kill Zax. They're down to 1 unit on the bridge and 1 on the battlefield. It's vital. Okay, so they can't kill us. They dealt 1 damage. They've got even a crit from Snaring doesn't do it here. And I think we're in a very good spot to even be able to kill Zax next turn. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, potentially 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, and Zax is on 10. So we might just have everything we need. This obviously stops us having everything we need, but we've got the ability to give ourselves invulnerable here, so let's just get this hit first.
Let's get you weird.
Shrapnel will come and just shoot here.
Oh, good job,
Get the lot.
Barry.
We'll toss this.
Deliciously devious.
Crosshair can get 98%.
The wings were a bad
And we'll
choice.
get Beatris to finish it off. Excellent. Okay. That worked out really quite well. Like, I'm not really sure Extilior did much. Like, he did a couple of hits here and there, but I almost think that Astra would be better to get the ramp out earlier and get ourselves a more defensive unit out rather than just a more defensive captain. Because I think Astra's obviously not going to be quite as tanky, you don't have the Shield of Hope, but Quetzalli, it didn't quite do it for me either. So I think in this sort of situation, I'd probably run the same sort of thing, but I might switch out Astra instead of Extilior, and maybe even take out Quetzalli and put in something like Toner Mystic Manteo, because that gives us a lot of options for late game healing, whereas Quetzalli is just mobility that I really don't think we were using there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's sort of a good finisher we could use there, or something along those lines. I do think Florio is just excellent in this sort of situation, because giving Florio armor, making him hard to hit, building a wall in front of him might be a really good way of doing it, but I definitely think there's some potential in this sort of list. So I want to thank Caster Brown for putting that list in there, talking me through it. It's looking like a lot of fun. I definitely think there's some changes that I'd want to make before I feel comfortable with it, but that might just be because I'm not particularly experienced as Extilior. So I've really enjoyed it. Again, I keep saying this in every list, but I'm still really enjoying this game. I want to thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It really does mean a lot to me. I'm hoping trying to put together a little bit of a couple of fun things for hitting 100 subscribers, and so hopefully that won't be too long and we can have a few sort of interactive ideas on that front. So thank you very much for watching and have a good day.